Howdy. Yesterday we were talking about a hardened heart of unbelief, and how the illustration was how they didn't believe God and started complaining and whining out in the wilderness before they got water provided for them. And the writer of Hebrews said, this is about coming to Jesus. You're doing the same thing as they did in the wilderness if you don't take the evidence that's before you and do something about it. Well, he's not done yet with Psalm 95. Now, if you were to mention rest to the nation of Israel, to an individual Israelite, he would be thinking of two things. He would first of all be thinking of the rest where they had been wandering in the wilderness for 40 years and now they enter into the promised land and they rest from their wanderings. But they would also think of Sabbath, that you work for 6 days and then you rest on the seventh. They would think of both of those if you just simply said rest for the nation of Israel. And so understanding that, the writer of Hebrews is quoting Psalm 95, and he's saying both of those refer to coming to Jesus. Psalm 95, verses 10 and 11. For 40 years I was loathed with that generation, and said, there are people who always err in their heart. They don't know my ways. Therefore I swore in my anger, they shall not enter into my rest. And of course, the first thing he's talking about is they don't get to go into the land of Canaan. And of course, the first generation didn't. It took the second generation to go in there. But then the writer of Hebrews is saying, yeah, it refers to Canaan. It also refers to Sabbath rest. And both of these are about salvation. And remember, he's talking to a Hebrew. So as soon as he says rest, they're going, Canaan, Sabbath. And he's going, yep, Canaan, Old Testament, Sabbath, farther even back than that in the Old Testament. Both of these refer to placing your faith fully in Jesus Christ and resting in him and him only for your everlasting life. Here we go. We who have believed enter that rest. Just as he said, as I swore in my wrath, they shall not enter my rest, although his works were finished from the foundation of the world. He has said somewhere concerning the seventh day, God rested on the seventh day from all his works. And again, they shall not enter my rest. Therefore, since it remains for some to enter it, and those who formerly had good news preached to them failed to enter because of disobedience, he again fixes a certain day. Today, saying through David, after so long a time, 400 years after Canaan, after so long a time, David said, today, if you hear his voice, don't harden your hearts. So in other words, David is saying, I'm not talking about Canaan. That's already happened. I'm talking about you entering into a faith rest life. If Joshua had given them rest 400 years ago, then David would not have spoken of another day after that. So there remains a Sabbath rest for the people of God. New Testament. For the one who has entered his rest, and that's with a capital H, Jesus, has himself rested from his works as God did from his. Do you understand what he's saying here? The Jewish system was do this, don't do that, do this, don't do that, do this sacrifice, observe this day, be circumcised, keep the Sabbath, keep the new moons, keep all the festivals, dress a certain way, all of those different things, all those different kinds of works. And the writer of Hebrews is saying, just like there's a Sabbath rest and just like there's a rest in the land of Canaan that's for people of faith, there is a salvation rest where you rest in Jesus as your all in all. And he's saying, don't harden your heart. Go ahead and by an act of your will, place your full faith in Jesus Christ as your personal Lord and Savior. Just like God rested from his labors and set aside that seventh day is a picture of salvation through Jesus Christ. You don't labor for it. It's not of works, lest any man should boast. It's simply trusting in Jesus and Jesus only for your salvation. You can't earn 1 second in heaven. It's a gift of God, and it's ours when we, by faith, accept Christ into our hearts. All done. Have a great day.